Evening. Welcome, everybody. I, if you haven't guessed it, am hosting the evening. This evening, it's an evening in conversation with the co-founder of the World Council for Health, Dr Tess Lawrie, and Dr Peter McCullough, one of the, if not the most published cardiologist in his field in history, who's here this evening as well. And we're hoping to have a fantastic evening. Thank you all for making the time this evening to come here at the St James Memorial Hall in Bath, UK. I think I am within my, let's see now, yep, great. I have 2 minutes to take a seat and take my time because they're coming on in 2 minutes. And what we're gonna do now, before we start, and I'm gonna introduce our two incredibly accomplished guests for this evening, one of them whom is also the host, Tess Lawrie, of the World Council for Health. And we'll watch a short film before, a short clip actually, it's a video clip before we start. But before that, I thought I'd tell a quick story about coming down here, because I was on the train. On the train here from London. I'm married to an American, and I thought it apt to tell this story this evening because one of our guests is American. I found it incredibly amusing because we're always joking. My wife and I, we have a child who's born in Tennessee, but raised here. So he has an American passport. He was American before he was British, but he speaks in a British accent. In fact, speaks with a bit of an East London accent because we live in East London. So whenever we fly to America, people hear him speak like me, even though we're in Tennessee, where my missus is from. And so they're always surprised, as Americans are. You know, Americans things, by the way, any of you guys, if you've seen my wife, she's amazingly beautiful. And the way you do it is you basically, if you're a Brit, just fly to America. All the American women love the English accent. That's how I did it. It's not that difficult. You just speak. You don't even pretend to speak posh. Just speak, right? And they just fall for you immediately. They think you're really posh, they think you're really smart, and they think you're really rich. So that's how I did it. I don't think I would have got a wife like mine if I was in Britain. But when we're in Tennessee, so they hear my kid speak. He's 6 years old, and he speaks with an English accent. They say, "Oh, that's great. Where are you from?" And he looks at them square in the eyes, and he's dead serious because it's true. And he's 6. He doesn't realize it sounds really weird. But he looks at them, and he says, in the most pristine kind of English stroke East London accent, "I'm from Knoxville, Tennessee, where I was born." And they're very confused. So the reason I'm telling this story is on the way down here on the train, talking about accents, the train announces where you're going. And I'm going to Bath. And this place is called Bath Spa, right? I found it hilarious. I got on this train, and for every other station, it was just one word, and that was the name of the town you're going to, as you'd expect, right? But if anyone's been, did anyone come on the train here from London? You guys would have heard that if you came from London, right, from Paddington to Bath, has anyone did that train journey? Great Western Railway? Right. Whoever did that journey would have heard them announce all the towns that you're going to stop in, all the cities, and they get to Bath, and for the poor, confused Americans, they say, Bath, Bath. That's literally how they announce it, Bath, Bath. They basically say Bath in an American accent after they've said Bath in an English accent, just to make sure the Americans understand where to get off. And that's where we are this evening. So I thought it's Peter's here, and considering events and considering the dangers of vocal advocates for health freedom ending up on the front pages of the newspapers for wrong things, I thought it appropriate at this moment to advise Peter that in Britain, when we say pants, we mean underwear and not trousers. Now, with that introduction, that's true as well, by the way, Peter. We do actually, pants does not mean what you think it means in England. Now, with that introduction, let's go straight to the film, and then we'll bring on our two speakers for the evening.
A deadly virus emanating from Wuhan, China is sweeping across the globe.
Something is off.
The disease caused by the novel coronavirus has been titled COVID-19.
What we're being told doesn't add
It's so
up.
important in this crisis that we in that people
Congress passes a multi-billion-dollar bill that will bring...
There is no cure, no way to treat this illness. All we can do is wait for a vaccine.
All we can do is wait for a vaccine.
There must be a doctor out there who's questioning this.
I'm Dr. Peter McCullough. I'm the Vice Chairman of Internal Medicine. The only chance to reduce the risks of hospitalization is early home treatment. We can beat this pandemic.
Patients actually think the virus is untreatable. There's such a focus on the vaccine. Where's the focus on people sick right now?
The pressure to suppress any hope of treatment is extraordinary.
Why the single-minded focus on the vaccine? What is that? What is that about?
That's really going to be the goal of investigative reporters, to figure this out.
Unprecedented lockdowns, devastating economic damage, huge violations of personal freedom, families separated from their loved ones, all in the name of a medical emergency.
Things won't go back to truly normal until we have a vaccine that we've gotten out to the entire world.
The hope we have of protecting our communities is to get a needle in every arm.
They call this a business opportunity. We are witnessing the greatest organized crime in history, to the tune of trillions of dollars.
The biopharmaceutical complex is using censorship, propaganda, and manipulation to keep people living in fear. But what we need now is courage.
And Doctors Peter McCullough and Tess Lawrie.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you both for this evening. It's a pleasure to speak to you both again. I've, of course, spoken to you both individually on my various shows, and we've had a 3-hour in-depth conversation most recently with Tess, which I'm happy to repeat with you if you want, Peter. We can have a 3-hour in-depth about various things. But this evening I thought, let's begin considering the state of the world by zoom out a bit and look at the state of play when it comes to the COVID debate. Because where we find ourselves at the moment is that we're about to witness a US presidential primary race, and then after that, of course, the actual main race. And we're in a state where pretty much the most visible, vocal and prominent candidates on both sides, I'd say, whether that be on the Democratic side, the most visible, I'd say, would be RFK Jr., or on the Republican side, the entire slate are now no longer not only not defending COVID mandates, but are proactively critiquing each other for not being anti-COVID mandate enough, by which I refer to, for example, DeSantis attack ads on President Trump for not being anti-COVID mandates enough as president, and vice versa, Trump and his campaign ads critiquing DeSantis of having once imposed lockdown, even though later on he changed his mind. So in fact, in the Republican primary debate, it's now a conversation about who's more anti-COVID mandates than it was when 3 years ago it was a completely different situation. Hence the question, which is both of you have suffered from, in various ways, due to raising your critique of the mandates and of the vaccines. You've been cancelled, Peter. You've been kicked out of your, at Baylor. You've been pretty much cancelled. Your career has been jeopardized. People have been trying to remove your license to practice and all sorts of things. Of course, you were kicked off Twitter, Tess. And I imagine everybody in the audience has their own version of this kind of experience where family, friends, loved ones have probably mocked you for the stances you took. So fast forward from then to now, where pretty much the Republican primary debate has become dominated by those competing to see, whether it's Vivek, DeSantis, Trump, competing to see who can be most anti-COVID mandate. Are you looking at this with a sense of bemusement, with a sense of accomplishment? Let's start with you, Peter. Compared to where we were and the personal costs paid for raising your voice the way you did, to where we are now, do you think we've made progress?
There's clearly been progress, and I just want to extend my thanks to each and every one of you for attending, and to Dr. Lawrie and Maajid and the crew at the World Health
World Council for Health. It's a privilege to be here. Boy, I don't know. I have a different view of presidential politics right now. I'm following, but I'm not seeing enough. You know, I've made it very clear. I've given more press interviews, more TV time, more camera time than any of the candidates right now, including Trump in the last 3.5 years, and certainly more on healthcare. And I've messaged out to all those campaigns, I want to see better. I want to see better. I think the message needs to be, the candidates work for us. If they want that office, they work for us. They're not a king or a queen. They work for us, and they need to do better. And I'm happy to show them where they can do better. It's way bigger than mandates. This is way bigger than mandates. So we haven't really gotten into the discussion yet. Now, Robert F. Kennedy is clearly there, but do you know within the United States, there are many political analysts who even refuse to recognize that he's running. So for instance, Rick Santorum, who ran years ago, is a frequent commentator on Newsmax. When he comes on, I listen to Rick. He will not even mention that RFK exists.
So before I come to Tess, even the demand that more needs to be done, though, it strikes me as a request made from a premise of confidence that your voice is now going to be heard, or that you have the moral authority to make that demand. About 3 years ago, though, people were, rather than taking such warnings seriously, were mocking and laughing you out of the room. So in that sense, has there been, do you feel that there's been progress made in the conversation?
Well, here's some, I think, some important talking points. I've never had someone of my standing, chief of medicine, a dean, a chief of infectious disease, ever face-to-face, or even by phone, by email or text, ever confront me on a single issue. So it's not even a matter
even on the
ivermectin. Never. No. Never. Because all of you know what I do. I cite the data with precision. I've done it from the very beginning. And I've challenged people, find where I was wrong. Let's rewind the tape. Where was I wrong, or where did I contradict myself over time? Have you ever seen those flip-flop videos of Fauci, for instance, flipping and flopping, or Walensky, or you can go to your public health officials here in the UK, flipping? Never. Because I've been laser focused on the science, as Dr. Lawrie has. We haven't contradicted ourselves. And I've actually never been, quote, laughed out of a room, or I've never even been confronted. How the canceling is occurring is in a silent mode. So I will receive a certified letter, or I'll receive an email. No courtesy phone call, no discussion, no faculty senate. And the list of cancellations is great. In fact, I was voted the most canceled person in a canceled celebration that we had in Las Vegas. I won. But the lists include being terminated from 2 jobs with no reason stated, with no performance evaluation, stripping of 2 professorships, with no faculty senate, without any discussion, without any due process. I've been removed as the editor of 2 journals after decades of perfect performance, the impact factor